You're listening to Strawberry Ink. I'm Santiago, and today we're digging deep into the tragic and chilling case of Makeva Jenkins. She was a mother, an entrepreneur, and a rising figure in her Florida community. Her death in 2017 shocked those who knew her, and the legal saga that followed revealed a web of betrayal, murder for hire, and justice that's still reverberating across the state. The investigation began as a state criminal probe involving three suspects: Euri Jenkins, the victim's husband, Jovan Joseph, a man with a dark role in crime, and Demetri Dale, a mutual associate of the two. Assistant State Attorney Alexia Cox took charge of the probe. And while Euri Jenkins was still on the run, she charged him for felony solicitation. She then presented the probe to a grand jury. What followed was explosive. Three suspects were indicted: Euri Jenkins on first-degree murder, Jovan Joseph on first-degree murder and a firearms offense. Then lastly, Demetri Dale, first-degree conspiracy to commit murder and being an accessory after the fact. With the indictments unsealed, a statewide manhunt began. Chief Assistant State Attorney Adrienne Ellis pledged full support, acknowledging the case's complexity. The arrests followed one by one. Jovan Joseph was the first to be captured. On September 2nd, 2017, Palm Beach County deputies spotted him and took him to their headquarters in handcuffs before booking him into the county's main detention center. Euri Jenkins was captured in Lantana, Florida during a U.S. Marshals raid. Like Joseph, he was cuffed and taken to the sheriff's office headquarters, then booked into the same detention center. Then, Demetri Dale, the last suspect, proved a harder track down. In February 2020, he was finally arrested in Charlotte, North Carolina, after another U.S. Marshals raid. He was briefly locked up at the Mecklenburg County Jail. Dale's extradition followed shortly after. Public defender Anna McMillan represented him, and Judge Robert Irvin signed off. Once back in Florida, he was booked into the Palm Beach County main detention center with his other two co-defendants. Then came the court appearances. Joseph appeared first on September 6, 2017, before Judge Cheryl Caracuzzo, who denied him bond. He had not yet entered a plea and was assigned to public defender Thomas Ways. Jenkins appeared 3 months later on December 20th, just days before Christmas Eve. Judge Caracuzzo denied him bond as well. He pleaded not guilty, and his defense was handled by public defender Greg Lerman. Dale's hearing took place on March 19, 2020, before Judge Jeffrey Gillen. This was shortly after arriving back to Florida, as he was dropped off by U.S. Marshals. He too was denied bond and as well pleaded not guilty. Christopher Haddad was also appointed as his public lawyer. Joseph's arraignment followed on September 18, 2017. He was ready for this case to continue. His attorney entered a not guilty plea on his behalf without a formal hearing. All that had to be done is sign and submit papers to the court. But things started to shift when the plea deals came in. On July 22, 2019, Joseph struck a deal. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and agreed to testify against Jenkins. In return, the firearms charge was dropped. Judge Kirk Volker accepted the plea deal. Joseph was sentenced to 15 years in state prison with credit for time already served. Failure to properly testify would result either in a perjury charge or a violations charge, which would not look good for him. Dale followed suit. On May 10th, 2022, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter. This was under a plea deal as well. Then his sentence, 45 days in jail, most of which he'd already served, plus 15 years of supervised probation. Therefore, he was released and walked free on May 25th, 2022, the day before my birthday. And also as part of the deal, he too agreed to testify against Jenkins. Then came the trial of Euri Jenkins. On April 26, 2022, he stood before a jury of 12 members and 2 alternates. He maintained his innocence, but the very next day, on Cinco de Mayo, that jury returned with a verdict, guilty on all charges. Judge Kirk Volker did not wait long. Jenkins was immediately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But even after sentencing, the court battles did not stop. This judge refused to grant Euri Jenkins a acquittal nor mistrial. Therefore, he would appeal to the higher courts. Then on the other hand, Joseph had waived some appeal rights with the deal, but he did challenge the length of his sentence. Judge Volker refused to resentence him, so the appeal reached the 4th District Court of Florida Appeals. However, that West Palm Beach Appeals Court denied the request in September 2020, and 3 months later, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear it. As of now, no appellate institution has helped Joseph get a reduced sentence, and Governor Ron DeSantis has not commuted him. Dale as well had waived his rights to appeal, but he waived all of his rights. Therefore, there was no change in his fate. As for Jenkins, his legal team tried everything. Due to the judge's rejections, that appeals court in West Palm Beach as well had to deal with him. They shut him down in July 2023, refusing to acquit him. And the U.S. Supreme Court in October of that year refused to hear the case. No appellate institution has helped him, and Governor Ron DeSantis has not helped him either. All other matters remain pending. Today, their statuses reflect the outcomes of a deeply layered case. Demetri Dale is free, serving probation. Jovan Joseph is imprisoned at the Liberty Correctional Institution in Bristol, Florida. And Euri Jenkins is serving life in state prison in Century, Florida. The death of Makeva Jenkins left behind more than a criminal case. It left a community stunned, a family grieving, and a cautionary tale of how betrayal, secrecy, and violence can shatter everything. Thank you for listening to Strawberry Ink. If you found today's episode informative, please rate, review, and share it with someone who you think should hear. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and never stop asking questions. Have a good rest of your day.